Shabbat Shalom. Let's take a moment and recap what we've seen in the last 7 weeks since we began the book of Exodus. So much has happened, all of which is leading us to today's Torah portion, Ki Tisa. So at the very end of Genesis, Jacob and his sons and their families go down to Egypt to join Joseph. This begins a period of 430 years that the Israelites would dwell in Egypt. And in Egypt, the children of Israel are fertile and prolific, and they grow numerous, so much so that Pharaoh becomes afraid of their growing numbers and enslaves them. And over time, the Israelites forget what it's like to be free. Generation after generation of people come and go, knowing only slavery and misery, and knowing only the polytheistic religion of the Egyptians, in which idols and a multitude of gods are commonly worshipped. God then appears to Moses in the form of the burning bush and tells him that it's his job to lead the people out of Egypt. Moses and his brother Aaron go to Pharaoh and risk their lives in persuading Pharaoh to let the people go. The people witness a series of wonders, the plagues, designed to demonstrate God's power and highlight the weakness of Pharaoh and the Egyptian gods. And with the final plague, the death of all the firstborn of Egypt, Pharaoh finally relents, lets the people leave. God causes the Egyptians to relinquish all of their gold and valuables to the departing Israelites, who head off into the desert and very quickly arrive at the shore of the Sea of Reeds. And then, in an amazing display of power, God appears as a column of fire to keep the Egyptian army from advancing on the Israelites. And then comes the most fantastic miracle of all, the parting of the sea. The Israelites escaped to freedom. The people were so overwhelmed by this display of God's power that they spontaneously broke into song. But there's more. God miraculously provides water and quail and manna as the entourage travels through the desert. When the Amalekites launch a sneak attack, Joshua, with God's help, leads them to victory. And then, 10 weeks after their deliverance at the sea, camped at the foot of Mount Sinai, in fire and smoke and thunder and lightning and loud blasts of the horn, a pyrotechnic display to top all others, God speaks to all the people and reveals to them the 10 Commandments. Number 1, I am the eternal your God who brought you out of Egypt. Number 2, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall make no graven images of anything that's in the heavens above or the earth below or the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. So pretty clear right from the top that the days of multiple gods and idol worship of Egypt are supposed to be far behind us. Miracles and wonders, shock and awe, God's incredible power on display for all to see again and again and again. Life is pretty good for the Israelites at this point. They've known the bitterness of slavery and the pain of oppression, but now they're experiencing victory and liberation. They have food to eat and water to drink, and through Moses, they are receiving instruction and commandment from God. And so when we get to this week's Torah portion, Ki Tisa, it can seem shocking to read the infamous story of the golden calf. Moses has gone up on the mountain to commune with God and to receive the rest of the Torah to bring down to the people. Why, after only 40 days, do the people suddenly lose faith in Moses? Why do they gather before Aaron and demand that he build them a golden calf? Why are they willing to donate all of their gold to make this idol? And why, after hearing very clearly those first 2 commandments, they are so ready to abandon the teachings of both Moses and God? Most Torah commentators agree that the answer is fear. 40 days and nights have passed since Moses left them. Perhaps he's dead. Perhaps he's abandoned them. Their anxiety mounts. What are they to do? Where are they to turn? Who will lead them now? Terrified, filled with uncertainty, they're desperate for a new leader. And so they say to Aaron, come, make us a God who will go before us. For that fellow Moses, the envoy who brought us from the land of Egypt, we don't know what's happened. let's not forget, time after time while on this journey, the people have lost their faith and succumbed to their fear. Time after time, they whine and moan and complain and rail against Moses. Why did you bring us out of Egypt only to die here in the wilderness? We miss the good old days with cucumbers and leeks and fish from the Nile. Take us back to Egypt. When the going gets tough, the stiff-necked, stubborn people forget all the miracles that they have witnessed and are ready to pack it all in and go back to slavery. So in a sense, their quick abandonment of Moses and their embrace of their old idolatrous ways shouldn't be a huge surprise to us. Martin Buber suggests that the people were in a state of panic and that they said to each other, Moses has vanished completely. He said that he is going up there to the God up there when we need God down here, just where we are. But he has not come back. And it must be supposed that that God of his has made away with him, since something or other between them was clearly not as it should have been. What are we to do now? We have to take matters into our own hands. An image has to be made, and then the power of God will enter the image, and there will be proper guidance. And what of Aaron? We could spend a long time ticking off Aaron's flaws and weaknesses in this story. Why is he incapable or unwilling to help the Israelites deal with Moses' absence without giving in to their desire for an idol? The late Rabbi Peter S. Noble gives us a few ideas. Perhaps Aaron is just as frightened by Moses' absence as everyone else. Perhaps he lacks the leadership qualities and the experience to know how to handle this situation. Perhaps as the high priest, Aaron thinks that he can distract the people by declaring a festival of the eternal and keep them busy until Moses returns. Perhaps he is afraid, as the text tells us, that if he doesn't do what the people ask, they're going to kill him. Perhaps he sees this as an opportunity to ingratiate himself with the people in case Moses doesn't come back and he next in line for leadership. Whatever the reasons, Aaron comes off in this text as pretty easy pushover. Interestingly, the rabbis largely let him off the hook, but that's a discussion for another time. There's a midrash from Talmud Shabbat 89a that gives us another insight on this story. Chapter 32, verse 1 reads, Vayar ha'am ki boshesh Moshe laredet min hahar. The people saw that Moses was delayed in coming down the mountain. The rabbis ask the obvious question of this story. How long was Moses late in coming down the mountain? Their answer, 6 hours. This comes from a play on the Hebrew word for delayed, boshesh. The rabbis deliberately misread this word to be bo-shesh, 2 words, which means come 6. 6 hours. The Israelites waited 6 hours before building the idol. So in other words, they were patient for 40 days and 40 nights, and then Moses is running 6 hours late, and they give up on him. It's an interesting question. How much time must elapse before we assume something is wrong? How long do we wait before we move on or give up? Maybe you remember from college the 15-minute rule. If the professor hasn't showed up in the first 15 minutes of class, you're free to go. Did the Israelites not wait long enough, or did fear get the better of them? Waiting and wondering, anxiety and uncertainty and fear. Sound familiar? In about a month, it will be 2 years since the COVID pandemic hit us here at Temple. The last in-person services before closing the building were on March 13th and 14th, 2020. Since then, we have reopened with limitations, then we closed again, and then we reopened again with limitations. We have waited, we have experienced all the fears, all the anxieties, all the uncertainties. As of yesterday, 78.3 billion cases of COVID have been reported in the United States, and 933,000 people have died. Every one of us knows someone who has been sick or hospitalized or died from this disease. Every one of us lives with some level of anxiety, uncertainty, fear. We long for the old ways, the old days, the cucumbers and leeks and fish that we ate indoors at our favorite restaurant. At least Moses had given the people a timeline. He told them that he would be back in 40 days. We have no timeline. This just seems to go on forever. And even worse, just when it seems that things start to look better, maybe we've turned a corner, some new variant comes along and we're right back where we started from. Many people are just done, right? Out of patience, ready to go back to life no matter the consequences. Others who are still being super cautious see this behavior as insensitive and selfish. Some people rush to get the shot as soon as possible. Others have refused to be vaccinated. And both sides think that the others are at best misinformed and at worst total idiots. We are all a little lost, more than a little lost, uncertain, and afraid. And that fear has driven some to tolerance, incivility, hostility, and unfortunately, violence. Israeli Torah scholar Nechama Leibowitz sees in the story of the golden calf not just the sin of the Israelites, not just Aaron's failures, but a deliberate warning that human beings are capable of acting so nobly in one moment, so horribly in the next. Leibowitz wrote that we should not be astonished at the fact that the generation that had heard the voice of the living God and had received the commandment, "You shall not make other gods besides me," descended to the making of the golden calf only 40 days later. One single religious experience, however profound, was not capable of changing the people from idol worshippers into monotheists. Only a prolonged disciplining in the laws of Torah, it says, directing every moment of their existence would accomplish that. Michael Walzer, a professor at the Institute of Advanced Study at Princeton, confirms this idea from a book called Exodus and Revolution. He says that the people can only move in gradual stages from bondage to freedom. Spiritually and politically, it is very slow, a matter of 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or maybe 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And I think I heard that in Torah study. Again, sound familiar? Finally, Rabbi Neil Joseph Levenger writes that the story of the golden calf is often understood as a parable of good versus evil, the villains among the people just waiting for the chance to turn them towards idolatry. Yet the rabbis seem to reject this harsh judgment of the Israelites by understanding that their idolatry arose not out of wickedness or heresy or spite, but out of confusion, anxiety, despair, and fragility, all of which are universal human experiences. This story is not just something that happened in the Sinai Desert centuries ago. It is about human beings in every age, including, and perhaps now more than ever, all of Shabbat Shalom.